Hello and welcome to Beth of Fresh Air. I'm so excited, pretty excited to be here today. I have to say, I'm loving this podcast a lot. I like it as an anchor. I like looking forward to Fridays and visiting with you guys. So always come say hi in the chat. I do kind of no pressure, but depend on you to be there to interact with and bounce ideas around and get some new data or questions or thoughts or anything like that. And before we get started talking about a very important subject, deculting, I made up a word for this one. Then I'm going to let you know what's going on. Mike New is here. Welcome. So great to have you here. Fantastic. I'm glad you could join us. And so what do we got coming up? First of all, in the House of Free Will, it is a very full weekend. There's an event tomorrow on Love Your Liver. If you're not familiar with Nutrition Detective and Dr. Garrett Smith's work, we have a small group in the House of Free Will on a private Telegram where we discuss our findings on the Love Your Liver path. It is a very specific path. If you're not familiar with it already, please do go and listen to my interviews with Garrett. There's 3 of them plus one he interviewed me, so that gives you a really good foundation. He also has a YouTube channel, like huge, and there's tons of information there. So if you're new to it, it's okay, but don't come to debate the things that you are doing or thinking about or anything like that, just because we're really focused on the Love Your Liver path there. So that's tomorrow at noon Central Time. There's still time if anybody would like to apply to be a member. If you're not already, then you could grab this link from the chat, which I think will be clickable now, apparently. There is, I was going to showcase some sound effects, which I think I will do as well. StreamYard keeps adding to their features. It's funny because I keep considering to cancel them and then they add all kinds of new stuff. They're super expensive, but this makes it easy for me because I'm not an OBS expert by any means. And then Sunday coming up is a House of Free Will movie event. So periodically we choose movies, or in this case, a series, to watch together and to discuss and unpack and eat popcorn and have some fun. It's scheduled at a good time for both the North Americans and Europeans. I always have to choose between Europeans and Australians, sadly, but for this one, the person who suggested it can only come at noon on Sunday. So that's a series called The Prisoner from 1968. It's not the movie The Prisoner, it's the 1968 quirky, sci-fi, weird, bust out of the Matrix theme. I find it very interesting because it was, I guess they started it the year I was born, and it brings back that Doctor Who kind of feel. So that's going to be a lot of fun. This is all included for your membership, by the way. There's no charge for these events. And then the next one is coming up Monday. It is a roundtable in law. And I finally have people in my world that I want to talk to about the law again. That I ran out of stuff because we ran into just so much nonsense. And but this is going to be really interesting. It's on the private domain, and the mythology around the private domain has been really thick and fast coming. It seems to go in waves. It's coming up again, making a new wave. So we are going to, in the private, I'm not one to go and call anybody out or threaten anyone's grift or anything like that, but I want my people to know what's real and what's not real. I know I went through several versions of reality myself until coming like, oh, okay. And so the law is very interesting. It's going to be from the perspective of English law that really is the law of the lands. And that will apply if you're in Canada, in the US, Australia, any Commonwealth country, Europe, European Union, all of that kind of thing. So that is coming up Monday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. This one is good for Australians. I did that on purpose because there's some new members that are really into the law, and especially the English law and the real deal kind of thing. No inventions, no assumptions, just let's look at the actual deal. Okay, so that's that. And now we got some sirens. There has that for a sound. Maybe I'll take a little break for sound effects. Here we get the applause. Just found these. It's hilarious. Just in case anyone wasn't nervous, you might be a little bit now. And if there was something funny would happen, we'll get this. Maybe. If I remember to it. And then if somebody's being bad in the chat, you might get a bounce. Doesn't happen very often. I'm very, very blessed with my audience. You guys don't I don't attract trolls for very long by any means. And then if I say something stupid, maybe I'll get a gong. All right, good. Satisfied my urge to do that since they exist. And then coming up on the King Hero's journey, Joel Schaefer is going to be on December 11th at 3 p.m. Central Time next week. Boy, I'm excited to talk to that guy. I've really been anticipating this conversation. And I got the soundboard. Yep, exactly. I know I'm moving up around here. And yeah, Joel, he's a gem. I just love his honestly his humility. That the path that he's on is making him humble, and it's such a beautiful thing. And then I have the great privilege. He's going to be interviewing me on December 15 at 1 p.m. Central Time. Not long after that, Kelsey Kenny is coming on. She is the in a way the feminine counterpart to the Love Your Liver nutrition detective world, and she is a molecular biologist. So we're going to talk about brain and breath food. Breath food. That's not Beth food. That's breath food. So I'm excited. December 18, 3 p.m. Central Time. She's going to geek right out, and my science mind has been ramping up. My capacity to take that stuff in has been good. Oh, there must be something major going on out there. Lots of sirens. And then I just booked Alex Michael, who you might know is the conspiracy music guru, coming on December 22nd at 11 a.m. early on a Monday. So that's a little better for him where he lives in Spain. And hello, Emil. Nice to see you. You said, good day. Should do a show or two that reviews the grifters and liars that you've interviewed over the years. Yeah, I know, right? It would be a long show. It would be so long. In some ways, it's good my channel got taken down because a lot of that stuff just disappeared. But yeah, I think there's someone that can hold a conversation with appropriate tact. Yeah, I got to sort of sit on the fence with that one because for the most part, I just don't want to be a predator on people. I just want my people to know. That's why I did the archetypes of controlled ops, so that I could have people learn the patterns for themselves and not have me in the background just calling people out. And, I go a lot by intuition, and then I take in some data from here and from there. And so, yeah, but I love it when we find the truth. It's a wow. So December is going to be a good month. It really will be. Yeah, I'm super excited. All right. So if you are not in the chat on one of the platforms, Facebook, YouTube, X, Rumble, or even Vigilante TV, although the last one doesn't have a chat, please do come in and join us for this discussion. First of all, put up your hand if you've never been in any cults your whole entire life. Anyone? Now, the word cult is a problem in and of itself because it begs defining. What does a cult actually mean? And so I'm talking today with about a massive range of the definition. We're going to go broad today. And then I believe I'm going to, public school, Mike said, just public school, exactly. Yeah, the education cult. So you can see how expansive, I'm going to add that to my list here. You can see how expansive the topic is, and it'll get unruly. But so I'm going to introduce it today. If I can find some guests, that's another thing I was going to ask you guys about. Who should I interview about cults? Is there anybody that you've come across that you feel is credible, that has done a deep dive into the nature of cults, and maybe some specific ones as well? I would talk to people who were in cults like Scientology or whatever it was. And I'm going to rely on you guys to throw them out because I don't research cults. I've just been in them. And that's how I tend to research inside myself. So I am interested in interviewing someone If you have any suggestions, please do bring them along. It's interesting how when I comb through my mind of all the people that I know, you think I would come up with a good handful of them. Derek Brose and Michael Tessarian have been suggested so far. Michael, God bless him. I love him, but I can't reach him. I don't think he wants to be interviewed by me. I've asked a few times. And so if there are others, then please do let me know. So you might have heard me say that I am a survivor. it's that would be a like kind of a dramatic way to put it. Some people are survivors of a cult that I was part of in India with a white bearded guru on a mountain, exactly like the cliche goes. And I first was part of a softer cult that was led by one of his, now I'll say this a little bit tongue-in-cheek, recruiters. So everyone in that cult ended up being a recruiter, including myself to some degree or another, although I led a double life, right? I had a professional life in the real world, in business and all of that kind of thing. And I was literally trying to hide my spiritual side. So I wasn't really going out to tell people, oh, come to the mountain with this white bearded guru guy. Oh, Clint Richardson. That's a really good idea. I haven't connected with him for, I bet it's more than a year already. So good idea. Yeah, I can have a decent chat with Clint. Thank you for that. And so it was, what was my first year? I graduated university as I was looking for a graduating credit. I came across a Religions of India course, and I literally had no interest. I'm just like, I'm probably never go to India. I'll just take this credit. It'll probably be interesting, Religions of India. And it turned into the prerequisite for a credit course, which I did need an extra half a credit to graduate my degree in meditation. And you needed the Religions of India in order to take the meditation course that was experimental. I think I took the only version of it. There might have been more, but I don't think so. And so I got into that course and I learned to meditate, and I met this recruiter, so to speak, but he's a friend. I somehow doubt he's going to hear this, but he's been a friend for many years. And nonetheless, there was, his students propagated this guy, and they would have, their homes would be covered in his picture, and they'd often have a shrine to him, which is very common in India. Well, I didn't think I was going to go to India. I ended up going 8 times, right? So I went overseas to visit the guru. I got lost along the way. I ended up in a cultural exchange program in Nepal. And then I traveled down to India, and I kept getting lost there because of the beach and the fun of traveling up along the coast and meeting a lot of international people. And oh man, did I eat my way through that country. If it was supposedly going to be a spiritual journey, it was mostly eating and getting sick, actually. Yeah, because I got about 100 jabs before I actually left on my trip. And I was a mess before I left. And then how I interpreted it then is that I got every little water or airborne bug that came my way because my immune system was crushed. So that I know that not to be true from the germ theory side anymore, but nonetheless, I did heal from the first round of all that. I'll go off on a tiny little tangent here by eating nothing but organic food. And it's so interesting because one of my son's friends came to those conclusions himself, started eating nothing but organic food. So that's kind of fun to watch younger generations tune in with that. And it really did work. But in 10 years, I had cancer. So there was, it started off a very bad string of events, let's say, that I'm still recovering from by far. Hello, Mary. Nice to see you. Great to have you here. I think we're going to be talking pretty soon from what my schedule tells me, if you're the right Mary Benyon. So I look forward to that. And so, yeah, there's the guru grift, right? So this is when people get on their seat. Actually, seat was a very common word in that context, that the seat of knowledge, that you are coming to sit beside the guru and to absorb the guru-ness and the space and meditate from this high, lofty place as you set your sights for enlightenment, right? So this was the plot. And it all sounded good. It's like, yeah, get me some enlightenment. I want that stuff. Yes, Mary, aka Diane. Oh, that's it. That's it. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. And so within the context of that meeting, which I want to say, I can't just run around. It's almost always like this. I can't just say, "Oh, this guru bad," even though he did some bad shit. He really did some bad shit. But I made good on it. I luckily was not personally victimized at all. Maybe just the money thing. I did pay some dough 8 times to that organization. That's like really little. You won't probably find it at all. And so, being close to that guy, you really did have a unique experience. It was like it got you high. And I used to think that was so great when you got high. And I don't hate it, but I see through it now. I see through it more that, okay, if something makes you high. It's a state of consciousness. It's, like sleep and dream and waking. And we recognize the difference between the high and the low feelings of, or the experience, the state of mind that we're in. And you definitely got high around this guy just by sitting close to him, whether you talked to him or not, or whether you got any deep knowledge or not, whether he answered your question or not. There was a highness to it. And when we get high, especially when we've been low, there is the propensity or the tendency to get attached to that highness, and then to further attach to the person who appears to be giving you that highness. So it took me a lot of years to recognize this, because I did think being high was the goal. It seemed good. It seemed right. I still love high energy. Who can't love high energy? But it is a trap. And I know very well now. So I'll probably talk more about that in a bit. Kind of all over the map. I didn't make a huge lot of order to my notes today, so forgive me if I'm a little bit all over the map. But in the end, we did discover that this guru was for sure grifting, right? So he charged. He didn't personally charge, but he had his people come and charge you. I think it was, I don't know, $300 a month or something like that. Not like really intense, but enough. And that was a lot back in those days. And then it turned out that he was also a sexual abuser and a pedophile, right? So we always would pride ourselves that we have the good guru. Everybody else has a bad swami, but we have a good swami. He's the good one. We're the lucky ones. We're the golden children of the good swami. And it started coming out. In fact, it landed on the Canadian Globe and Mail Saturday edition Life section, a big story expose on this guru that you might be able to find. I haven't tried to find it. It was pre-internet days, but those things can make it on the internet anyway. And so when this story came out, and enough people had come forward at that point, some brave women that had been part of the whole sexual abuse thing started putting their hand up in a little bit of a Me Too way, but not in a, Me Too became a very weaponized kind of cult unto itself, where a lot of men got harmed, and a lot of women, just looking for revenge against men in general, use that kind of thing. So this was different than getting really brave to come and say like, hey, I've had some bad experiences. And what happens in a cult when people start to come forward? Do you guys know? When they start to say, this wasn't okay. My hands up. I am risking everything. This happens in our society. I mean, it's a classic thing that If somebody gets raped, then they go under the magnifying glass, and it's very, very hard to turn around and press charges because you know what you're going to go through in the process, as if the experience itself wasn't bad enough. But then you guys know how it goes, right? This is just it's a kind of gory situation where the law often is more appearing to protect the predators than it is the victims, so to speak. But the victims also very much abuse the system. So in a way, it can be fair. Hello, Eliza. Nice to see you. The rest of the cult members sacrifice the whistleblower. Exactly. Exactly. And the reason for that is because why? What would you have to do if you listen to the whistleblower? What would you need to do, say, as one of the cult members? You might have to empathize with them. You might have to feel their pain, which is empathy. You might have to face your cognitive dissonance that you thought this guy was the perfect guy and he's your savior, or he has all the answers, or you feel good around him. That alone, right? Just the good feeling. We lust for that because there's so many bad feelings that we have. And so, yes, that's exactly what happened. The cult members turned around and exactly sacrificed, attacked, called out these whistleblowers, said, "Oh, they're not evolved. They don't have the enough enlightenment yet." Even on the other side, they started making reasons and excuses. This might have come from the Swami himself, and it might just have been an invention of his people, that they said, oh, these victims, they needed that abuse. They needed to go through a terrible experience or repeated terrible experiences, because that's often how these things take place over years, over time. And they needed that for their spiritual evolution. They needed that in order to grow. And this is one of the biggest abuses of all. I do consider spiritual abuse to be the highest level of abuse that there is. Physical is bad, emotional is bad, but spiritual, I think this can leave scars that will last potentially lifetimes. What do you guys think? So, yeah, they attacked and they took down the whistleblowers. But for those of us that had, say, less investment, I was going there every year. I considered myself a disciple of Swami Sham, was his name, and but I was more of an outsider. I would come and go. I didn't live there full time. I wasn't special to the guru, meaning he had me doing special work for him called slave labor, or I hadn't been singled out like I was special. There were a lot of special people, right? They had particular roles, and people would clamor for that, to be a slave to the guru, that was somehow huge advantage to them. So I was kind of lucky, and I even tried to be one of those women that would go to see him every night. I did not know what was happening. I just thought, oh, something special is going on. I'm special. I want to be part of the special thing. Well, honestly, the divine was really looking after me in that case. And yes, spiritual abuse, exactly. So yeah, this has happened many times in my life where I wanted something, or I wanted someone, or wanted to be part of a situation. And one of the names for God in Sanskrit, or the divine, I don't know, goddess problematic, translates into the permitter. It would take me a few minutes offhand to find that word. I don't think I have it right in front of me. Close, but not close enough. But nonetheless, this is a beautiful aspect of God, that certain things are, allowed to come into fruition. You have a desire, you maybe let the desire go so that you could actually have the thing. And but if there's that if the divine is going, like, it's a no, actually. It's just a no, that's not gonna happen. I don't care how much you work for that, how much you want that, how much you release and deprogram around that, to speak my own language. It's just a no, it's not gonna happen. And this was one of those situations. I was spared. I was spared, I tell you. It was like a miracle, even though in those days it was like, "Oh, I don't, I want to belong with all of these women that, I didn't know what was going on behind the scenes." I'm wondering if I was not allowed in there because I had already done some sort of rebel acts against the recruiter that I dealt with, that was my first contact for this cult. And he also was in the range. Now, I really hope he doesn't see this. I don't think he will, but he was also, something of an abuser. He had a lot of different girlfriends at the same time, and he never told anybody that he had a bunch of them. And they consider themselves to be like Krishna, and then they're gopis, which are the goat herders, or the cow herders, which are often women, I guess. Anyway, they called us gopis, like we were the group of gopis chasing. The mythology says how they would, run after Krishna and want to be with Krishna. And it does point back to something really interesting and valid, and it's that sacred love affair between the masculine and the feminine. And there is something real in that. But what they did in this cultural context was to use it as a way to abuse people, to take power over them. Usually women. I don't know if men ended up in that situation with a guru. It's possible, but probably not quite like that. And so I had called them out. I was willing to be the whistleblower. I was willing to get some of that abuse myself, and I did. And I was challenged, and I was sort of shut up, and I let it go for the time. But maybe that's why I wasn't welcome into the guru's innermost circle, because I was a loudmouth, and to this day still maintain that kind of position to a degree or another. I feel like I'm much smarter about it now, and try to go at it really purposefully. Like, what is the purpose for me? What is the purpose for them? What is the purpose for other people? Is there enough of one? Is the squeezing of that lemon worth the juice or not? And so, yeah, it's often the lure of a guru could be with things that make sense and are half true. And if he was just perfectly forthcoming and he said, "Yeah, I'm just in it for the money and the sex," then that would have been new information. Then I would have taken that in and went like, "Is this my beautiful guru? Do I need to travel to India at great hardship and expense every single year to be with a guy whose priorities are getting the grift and the girls?" No. Right? So they have to keep those things kind of under wrap. They have to blur. This is what Satanists do. So I ended up staying up last night watching something that someone shared on the House of Free Will Telegram chat, which has been super active right now. And they shared a movie about the Illuminati. And I have to admit, when I first saw the video, I'm like, okay, yeah, like we've all learned about the Illuminati by now. We all have a sense of that, about Freemasonry, the symbols, how they invert things. But I decided, just out of courtesy, because it's one of my members sharing it, I decided to watch it anyway. Well, it turned into a really good one. And it wasn't a whole lot of stuff that I didn't know, but it was really well put together. I could probably find the link. If anybody's interested, you can hit me up on the King Hero chat on Telegram. If you guys are there, I can grab all those links. Let me see. You have to be a member to join the House of Free Will one, but you can always find me on Telegram. I'll just share a link to the direct chat. This is where I spend a lot of my time out of convenience. It's just a nice thread to be able to follow, have good conversations. And nobody takes my posts down, although they do take my emojis down. Just so you know, if you're on there and you've made comments and you think I'm ignoring you, I'm not. Darn it. Yeah, I can turn around. I'll just, give a love or a like or whatever, and I'll go back and they're all gone. It's like, looks like I'm not there. So don't think that. And you're welcome. You need to learn about them guys. Yeah. So then where was I headed with that point when I introduced or interrupted myself? But yeah, the luring with half truths, making sense to good people. And this is the thing that I notice, makes me right away think of Scientology, how good people are attracted and they have to speak some truth, or they have to speak a lot of truth. They have to speak at least 80%, 90%, 95% truth. Oh, I might sneeze. Excuse me. Try not to do that right in the mic. And if they don't have that truth, and it's the same in our truth and freedom spaces. This is something I'm going to have to really reflect on. Do we start taking apart the truth cults? It would be good, but it's dicey. I, again, don't want to be a predator in this way. Hello and welcome, Maya. Great to have you here. So yeah, they need not only the half truths, they need more than half truths, and they need to make sense to people who are basically good people. So that's always the way. That meant that my white bearded guru, he had a ton of good things to say. I'm now going back. There's some kind of retrograde. I'm heading for a Saturn return in 2027, and I'm gearing up for it. So I've gone back to things like the Bhagavad Gita. This is actually his translation. And I learned enough Sanskrit so I can read the sounds properly. And I did a lot of music writing. I've got 4 CDs of mantras and verses and that kind of thing. You can find them on major platforms like iTunes and Spotify. And I've been able to make use of that kind of, my work has always been building on itself, leaving some things out, taking some new things on, but it really is just an expansion. And it's all about knowing who you are, right? That is beyond our body, beyond our thinking mind, beyond our senses and what we can grasp from there, and beyond language, what we can say with our words, and why you would turn to Sanskrit to be able to express things that are harder to do with our maybe more colloquial languages, which it's not perfect anyway. Oh yeah, I was okay, I'm going to just try to stay focused here. So I was talking to you about the movie on the Illuminati, which is really good. So hit me up for that link. It is a good one. It's time well spent. I took tons of notes that are across the room, of course. And so what I picked up from this was really interesting, because this last year I did a talk on the marriage of the opposites. And every time I'm asked to do a talk, I do a little PhD on the subject. I spent a lot of time and a lot of energy, and I just poured my heart and my soul into this, thinking it through, and in some ways reinventing the wheel, because think my discoveries are not necessarily new, but I am coming at it from my angle, which is new and fresh. Hello, Jackie K. Nice to see you. And so a lot of the subject of this video was about the opposites, about how, and this is inherent in our language. We got an up, we got a down, we got a cold, we got a warm or hot. We've got a light, we've got a dark, we've got a good, we've got an evil, we've got a life, we've got a death, right? And so these are positioned in our mind. I'm going to I do have a stage copy of the recording of that talk. Even though I nearly dropped dead for most of Anarchapulco, I came to on the last day, and the stage manager put me on stage, said, "Do your talk." It's like, okay, I came all this way to do it. So I did. And it was really satisfying. The most satisfying of all was doing a demonstration at the end of the talk with some participants who it totally worked on, even though they had never had any time with this work whatsoever. It's so beautiful when it just works, and you don't need to believe anything or have any big body of information for it to work. It's very practical. And so what I learned from this video was that the satanic version of that, or it was saying it's the Gnostic version of that. And I've got some good Gnostic friends, so that's dicey. But in this case, they're talking about opposites. So the classic one being good and evil, and we want our people, especially our gurus, to be in one of these two categories. And you want them to be good, and you don't want them to be evil, of course. Now, in reality, most people are some kind of mix. But what happens in our psyche is that these two opposing things, so people that saw the good in my guru and then the people that demonized my guru, these two realities were there right in front of us, demonstratable. And then so that creates a lot of tension between these opposites in our own psyche, of course. That's where the tension is. It's the only place tension really shows up. And so that opposition, it what it does is it gets you on the pendulum swing between good, is he good, and is he evil? Is he good? Is he evil? Is he good? Is he evil? And it's demanding that you land in one of these positions so that you could relieve the tension. But like every map of consciousness, which a pendulum is, the purpose of that map is to teach you that you need to get off the map. You need to be free, or you need to know that you're free. Because as long as you're on the pendulum, or you've glommed onto one end of the pendulum, which you have to do and hang on by your fingernails and ignore any other evidence that would come your way that might sway you to the other side of the pendulum, it's very painful. Say I had been a victim of this guru, and I would have that wound and that pain to the degree that I do, then that would torture me, because any good that I got out of that experience would fly in the face of my ability to make him evil. And so without needing to qualify that, this is something, if you look in all of our movies, all of the literature, it's actually become so boring for me, this fight between good and evil. Our now I've been tasked not to say this anymore, controllers or the controllers, or those that see themselves to be the controllers that are not the real controllers, but that do lord over us in a lot of ways. They are very invested in us being on the map in one way or another, whether it's the pendulum of opposites or the scale of emotion where we go up and we go down and we're all around, or on the map of archetypes and the patterns that people end up locked in. And so what I noticed is that pitting of those two against each other, here's what the Satanists did with it, or the Gnostics, is their marriage of the opposites is so crap. It's not real. They're talking about merging the opposites. They're talking about, now marrying sounds like that too, right? So it's pretty easy misunderstanding in some ways. They're talking about blending and blurring the opposites. So in this example of good and evil, what do you get when you blend and blur these two qualities? You get a mess, right? You don't get clarity. You don't get anything. Boy, this is so highly nuanced. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this justice. Might deserve its own thing, but many of the opposites are not true. For example, light and dark. There's no such thing as dark. There's no entity. You can't take a dark particle and give me one. But light is real, to the degree that it's been agreed upon that light is a thing. And dark is only the privation of light, the absence of light, to the degree that there is an absence of light. And even if you have the pitch blackness, but you strike one match, it's going to be felt in all of that darkness, right? So the darkness really isn't there. That means light and dark do not oppose each other because it's not there. And that is the beauty of doing this actual inner work, not just pushing around furniture on your titanic mind to think it through, because otherwise, then the Satanists make sense. And that's how they have taken, say, the opposites of man and woman, or masculine and feminine, and have, married them for the hopes of what? Ascension. This is satanic. I've been in this conversation for quite a while around myth busting ascension spirituality, right? So then when you really investigate the opposites and the tension in the opposites, you often realize that they have either they are an illusion, or there's an aspect of illusion that you have created with your thoughts, your feelings, and the programs that hold them in place. And I can't just tell you this. It would be hard to believe. It is a direct experience, but that I've had many, many times, not just with myself, but many clients as well. So when you really investigate, it's not about blending and blurring and taking away the natural womanness or the natural manness. You don't want that. We actually want strong, polarized men and women. We want men and women who are really women. We want men who are really men. And guess what? They work perfectly together. There's no match more amazing than a man and a woman, and they know that, right? So if they come along and they try to blend and blur, you don't do this naturally. That's why they need chemical castration of children. That's why they need costumes. That's why they need makeup. That's why they need to affect their voice. That's why it requires chemicals in order to alter. That's why they pumped the beer and the alcohol into the system, because that is estrogenic and it feminizes men, for example. That's how they tamed the Jesuits tamed the monks from being real men. They got them all soft and fat, and took the masculine testosterone dominant man out of the picture. Hello, Michelle. Nice to see you. Glad you're here. And Emil said, not the good girl, nor Jasmine or cults to consciousness might be ladies to reach out to. Thank you very much, Emil. I haven't heard of any of those, but those are great suggestions. I appreciate it. And nice to see you. So yeah, it's fascinating how that got twisted. And then everyone will come along, if you notice this in any kind of spiritual circles, and they talk about how, well, the good and the bad, they have to coexist. There would be no good without bad. Or there has to be the light and the dark. You would never know the light if you didn't know the dark. Or there has to be slavery in order to know freedom. To me, this is bullshit. This is absolutely wrong. And my only evidence is my direct experience inside myself that says there is a pure source, that we don't need light. We often use our problems to find solutions, but we don't need problems to find solutions. It might be improbable that we find solutions without a problem, but that doesn't mean we need the problem. All right. One just minute break while I take care of something. Forgive me. And I'm back, and let's see. Get some applause. Anyway, just being playful. Yeah, so that was fascinating. I really enjoyed seeing that, because everything sounds so true when they say that you need one to have the other. You need pain in order to have the knowledge of pleasure. It's just wrong. It's just wrong. And it's based on a faulty concept of opposites in our mind that is really just a construct, right? So this is the hope that we can see through these things and have the revelation of the construct and see it's not what it appears to be. It's not what it's been told to be. And I need to write some hold music. Yep, exactly. Been watching Sarah Tomato. What a pro on her StreamYard. My goodness. And yeah, she's got all kinds of fun stuff going on. So I will evolve that as we go along. Thank you, Elisa. And so this is interesting. Oh, I was going to set up a song. I wonder how fast I could do that. So what I noticed, especially after extricating myself from the cult, I was actually sick with cancer at the time. And the guru helped me get through some of that, which was fascinating, right? One of those experiences that could have been easy to ignore. And so what I noticed is that people want to give their power away. They don't even want their power. Because why can these guys be predators on the people? Because people want to be prey. They want that. And this is a pretty harsh analysis for some people that, that might make no sense to them whatsoever. But so I'm going to do a little experiment, and I'm going to share a song on Spotify here and see if I get a strike for it, since it's my own music. So I'm going to have to stop that one and pull up my Spotify. Is it going to work? Oh, I don't know. Somehow. Oh, it lets me share sound now. Excellent. So I think this will work. You guys, Brave browser can access, allow. Got it. Bear with me. If I have a guess, that's okay. All right. So here is my song called Secrecy. And I wrote this after getting out of the cult off of my Where There's Beauty album. So I'll just play it, since I don't know how to make it a nice big window, but we'll just play it. Let me know if you guys can hear that, please.
No reflection, no distance, no social control. No one knows what they're seeing. To politicians, physicians, preachers and goddesses, we give our power away. If it's only okay, secrecy, then how I just couldn't be when it's ever so discreet. Your secret, safe with me. Rich men, rich women, betrothed to their fortune, silence the price that they pay. We honor contracts on our own freedom. We give our power away. And if it's only okay in secrecy, then how that just couldn't be. It's ever so discreet. Real secret words, safety dream. Them drawn to them, We want their attention, we're hungry, and they'll have their way. And if they knew what you do behind doors might not be easy anymore. And that's why we hide from ourselves and everybody else when it's ever so discreet. Your secret is with me. It's a good time. Sadness is in your mind. The hook is a good time. Sadness is in your mind.
And there you have it, secrecy. So that's a little experiment. I haven't been able to play my music on this channel, but that, oops, 1 second. Spotify just keeps playing. And yeah, so that kind of says it all. The hook is a good time, right? The hook is a good time, and the sadness is in your mind. So you get something that you want, right? You get to, in my case, I got to feel high around this Swami. I got to feel like I was moving towards enlightenment. That's my idea of a good time, or, was. So I was hooked. There was this, I wanted the thing, and therefore I was going to give myself over, and I was going to trust the guru, which is a very childlike thing to do, where we want to trust the guru, or we want to, and then people that the pendulum swing, oh, just trust yourself. No, trust the guru, trust yourself. And there's a pendulum. Neither are true. That's one of the soapboxes I like to get on. And then this, it was classic. Whenever you had a problem in that cult, they would say, it's in your mind, like this. And there is some truth to it being in your mind. There is some truth to that, because there's a component that will be your thoughts. It will be, if you consider that to be your mind, your emotions. It will be your programming. It's true that all of that will interact with it, but it ends up used as a way to justify the injury that's being caused. Very, very, very common, where they try to spiritualize, and then spirituality becomes a weapon, because yes, there is something in your mind, but there's also something real going on, and something real and wrong. So yeah, that's a good one to. That one just sums it up for me. I always want to turn to that song. I don't know if I can grab a link for you guys. Let me see if there's a quick share. Would be the simplest thing to have a share. Download everything, share. Here, I'll share. This is a Spotify link to the entire album. And I recorded this after my India days were done, and I was just fresh out of my, was it remission for the first time or the second time? No, there was the second time. Because I had to get that stuff out of me. I thought it might die with it in me, and then that would be a bad thing. So yeah, the war between good and evil, this is fake and gay. It's not really what we're doing here. It just keeps us on the pendulum of being afraid of the evil and trying to get to good. And these, need to be unpacked. and to see the truth of the reality behind it, that when you actually truly marry those opposites, they discharge the meaning on the poles. So I'll leave it at that for now. All right. So now, why do cults have any power over us? I can boil this down into 4 primary reasons. And this will be true of any cult. Like, for example, people that get into the Hollywood cult and they go on that trajectory of like, oh, I'm going to be famous and a star and everybody's going to, and this is the important part here, everyone is going to love me. This is the promise of one of what I call the root programs. It says, if you want love and approval from people, you are, or yourself or anyone, you have to want that. You have to first believe the lie of that, the lie of lack of that, and then be driven to get the love and approval of people at all cost. So every cult depends on this programming. You must want their love and approval in order to be part of the group, to be included, to be, a valued member of the cult, to not get kicked out and extricated from the cult. You must get their love and approval. How do you get their love and approval? By doing all the things that they like, that they prescribe, right? So there are so many situations where people are in the midst of those. Churches are very common cults for this reason, where you've got the abuser or the abuse going on in the back end. Maybe it's the priest, maybe it's somebody in the congregation, and they're abusing somebody else, maybe a child, and then you get the whistleblower, but the whole congregation turns on the whistleblower, as we've already been talking about. Why do they turn on the whistleblower? Why? Because they want love and approval, and they are driven by this hunger that is absolutely insatiable. You cannot fulfill a program. The more you fill a program, the hungrier the program becomes. I want to stipulate that this is not an outside entity. I'm not talking about a being. I'm just talking about how you've organized energy in a kind of architectural way in your system, composed of thoughts, feelings, and then these underlying programs. And so that's how they hook people. If you want love and approval, you're going to do whatever they say. And it often has an incrementally ramping up kind of thing where you'll do this thing for love and approval. And you might even internally decide, I'm not going to do more than that for love and approval. But then they raise the stakes, and then you have to do more for that love and approval. And you start digging yourself in to this place. A lot of different ways, right? When people express their disapproval of you, they are withholding their love and approval. And that's another way to activate. No one can give you that program. They can suggest you run that program. We have to internally agree. We have to tacitly agree to the programming. We do it ourselves. We're not really, we can't be programmed by anyone else. This is my paradigm that come by. We have to make an unconscious choice. So that's a really big one. When you want love and approval, it makes you at the mercy of cults. So this is something to be really aware of. And it's something I teach a lot about. I was going to let you guys know I actually have a new course, a newly revamped course called Deprogramming 101, where I go really deep into these. And I do actually have a sign-up link for anybody who's interested, since I mentioned it last time. And I heard from a few of you guys, so there is a link to that. And so the second reason that people are really super vulnerable to cults is another program called wanting control. This, by the way, is from the work of Lester Levinson, if you're trying to trace this at all. And that program says that you don't have control, therefore you need to want it. You lack it, you need to fear not having it. And so a lot of people will get into, a cult, a group, where there's a kind of, group think, where there's a certain predictability going on, where there's a code of being, because it has this illusion of control, that it's going to somehow give you control over your life. If you were to go against a cult, you would probably experience being out of control. You would probably get that kind of feedback, again, maybe disapproval, the chaos that can erupt. But what is even more poignant about this program, and cults in particular, is one of the iterations of this program is the desire to be controlled. Right? That's like a real kicker. When you find that inside yourself, there's not a rebel out there that's going to admit to wanting to be controlled, right? That would be stupid. That would be, antithetical. That would be the opposite of what we're trying for here in the truth movement, especially, is wanting to be controlled. Now, you may be able to withstand wanting to be controlled by the government or the police or authorities or the legal system or that kind of thing, but then you find the cult, and then you want the cult to do your thinking for you. You want them to take responsibility for what's going on. And that desire to be controlled is very easily taken advantage of and manipulated. So that's one to watch out for. Very unconscious. If this just sounds like gobbledygook, it's because it's hidden away. But I promise these are ubiquitous. Everybody will see them. The next reason that people end up in the cult and loyal to the cult, maintaining themselves and their status in the cult, and long after they know the cult's not good for them, by the way, is the program that says you're going to die. The program says you must want survival and safety in order to withstand death. Well, it doesn't work. The program is useless. Everybody passes. All of the bodies go from existing to non-existing. That's this kind of realm that we're in. But the cult will promise that you'll be safer in the group, right? I think a lot of us were very vulnerable in 2020 when we got pushed out of our family circles, out of our work circles, out of our friend circles, maybe out of the cults that we already belonged to, that you just couldn't hold your tongue anymore, or you couldn't take it when everybody's like, which jab did you get? I got the, this Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson and all this kind of, if you just couldn't take it, you probably let yourself not be in that cult, but you might have been vulnerable to joining some new cults along the way because they promised some kind of safety in the chaos and the lack of control that started that year exponentially. It wasn't the beginning. It just was a major ramping up. So definitely easy to take advantage of people who are scared to die. That's why they scare the hell out of us. But we can end up doing that to each other as well, and promising this what we can never deliver, because why? You're not God. You're not the divine who can give and take life. And then so the last reason, the fourth big one, is the last of what I call these root programs, and it's wanting oneness and wanting wholeness. And this is the thing. My episode on belong there's some overlap here in this, that we desperately want to belong. That's very much a child kind of a archetypal thing as well. We want oneness. We want, it seems like connection, but the connection is taking two things and connecting them. Oneness is different, right? The true oneness is off of the map of 1 + 1 = connection. That's more math. That's more the satanic side of it. But this oneness that we want drives us to be what? The same as other people, right? That's the whole ruse of communism right there. They want everybody to be the same. They want you to have one, not many leaders, just one leader. And they want you to have one currency, not many currencies. They want you to have one way to think, right? It's now become illegal to say all kinds of things under hate speech laws. We're we're in that time. We all know it. That's not news to you. And this want for oneness, it's such an advantage if you can learn to see and release this, because when you don't want to be one, you basically realize you have the experience of being that. You already are that. That's the punchline of every program. Although there's so much detail and nuance, I won't go into that, but it is in my course. And let's see what Emil said here. He said, Moonweb's Journey into the Mind of a Cult by Josh Freed is a great book. Canadian writer. Oh, interesting. I might be able to track him. Who that wrote about the Moonies. Ah, yes. Yeah. Do name. I totally didn't remember the Moonies until you just said that. So that's great. Another good tip. There are just so many cults. It's stupid. And then, I was seeing how that same program tells you to want for wholeness. And we do have an experience inside of ourselves of being fractured up. That's what happens through injuries and traumas at the level of the psyche, where some of the pains that we've been through at certain times of our life were too strong to go through with an undeveloped nervous system as a child, for example, or as an adult. It was just too much. That happens, right? I'm still healing the trauma of cutting this finger nearly off. I'm still healing it. It's been a while. I took another pass at it yesterday. I think it's mostly good. And it's I even played guitar the other day for about 12 seconds with this finger, and after 12 seconds it's going like, okay, that's enough now. But that's a massive breakthrough for me. And so this injury of getting fractured is what tells us to want wholeness, where parts of ourself need to be cloistered off, meaning, the energy of the pain or the reaction, mostly the programming that you put in place during the injury or as a result of the injury, or as you contemplated or tried to suppress the pain of the injury. And so it drives us into this place. It's what made me see that the wholeness that communists offer is really assimilation, not wholeness at all. And it's based on that promise of ascension. Because if you can assimilate and assimilate and assimilate and assimilate and reduce down, that it has this idea that that's where enlightenment is going to come from all of this sameness. But it's really a program, right? So you can let me know if that makes any sense, you guys. So I'm excited about getting a few little nuggets that I didn't have before. This is another element of cults, is secrecy. Back to that song that I was playing on that exact theme. And this is where privacy gets weaponized. And have you ever been sworn to secrecy, not to tell people about certain relationships or certain experiences or certain awarenesses? This is a big red flag. If people are asking you to be secret about your friendship or your anything like that, then there's something wrong going on there. That is an abuse. That happens to children often. Even my son, his dad, not my dad, would say, "Oh, don't tell your mom that we went for ice cream or we went for, did something that she wouldn't approve of," which it wouldn't be the end of the world with ice cream for me, but and then swearing that child to secrecy with the lure of the ice cream or the thing that they want, that is very abusive, because then they have to hold the knowledge of something inside themselves. It creates a distance. They have to distance themselves from that person that they have a secret from. That is when the cult is going to tell you, don't tell the rest of the people that we all have this kind of like, orgy every night or whatever it was going on. I wasn't there. I didn't see it. Thank God. And I'm just wondering, why do I even have a memory in my mind of something, though? Why do I have a memory? My goodness. Okay, that's something altogether different. Might be having a little awakening here. Maybe I was part of observing something in that cult. But needing to swear people to secrecy is such a heavy, intense weight and a burden. And it's exactly how the perpetrators keep doing it, is because they don't talk to each other. They don't know what's going on. They don't know that they're all being abused. Why? Because that would fall apart, right? If everybody understood what was going on, if it was done in openness, nobody would condone it. That it must go into secrecy. And when you make anything a secret, you're also making it unconscious. Whether you're asking somebody to keep a secret for you or you're keeping a secret, you actually have to push it down out of your awareness in order to cope. Because if you keep having that secret, you keep having that thing top of mind, it's going to create tension. It's going to create the desire to express or the need to express. And so they rely a lot on that secrecy in order to get by. Definitely the sign of an abuser. And if anybody has sworn you to secrecy on something, then I think you should tell someone right away. Acting like your mama here. Emil said, he describes how easily most people become brainwashed by a cult. Only takes a few days, no matter how intelligent an individual is. Even if you know a group is a cult, can still be sucked in. Yep. Because what do you think, Camille? Is it because we all have our price? I remember I was thinking about the earlier on in the pandemic, I used to get approached by the Asmin Nation members often. I'm just trying to remember if, Emil, you were involved in that or not. Maybe it was somebody else. And they would come at me from a variety of different angles, and they would seem to send different people. And there definitely was a UN connection. And I've learned enough in the meantime to extricate myself. But it was a kind of cult. And they lured me with fame. And they said that if I brought forward the knowledge of, like it was something different at every time, that they were going to take Canada from the Queen, or I don't know. I barely hold on to the details anymore, but it was that I was going to be this emissary of this knowledge coming forward, and I was going to be famous, and they were going to put me up on a pedestal, and I'd have a front row seat to heaven or whatever kind of thing. And when I started getting those promises of fame, I don't know why. I remember walking up to my window that night, and I heard these words, and they said that this time around, I am unfuckwithable. And I realized, okay, they're fucking with me. They're trying to blow smoke up my butt. They're buttering me up. They are, trying to lure me with something they think that I want. And I didn't want that. And I just started turning away from it, not with any big fanfare. I didn't have to call anybody out. I just removed myself, quietly backed out of any kind of dealings with them. And I've been affirmed in my choice. So it's a sign, when people try to blow smoke up your butt, they want you to feel good about yourself. They love bomb you. That's a classic thing. Some people are so vulnerable to love bombing. Why? Because they're starving for love, because they run that program that says they don't have that and they need to get that. And I have done enough work for 25 years to be able to recognize it. Who knows? Maybe I'm going to get tested and someone's going to come along and try to give me something that I really want more than fame or whatever, they're going to, it's probably going to be something about my work. This is a place I can still be seduced. So I shouldn't tell the internet this, but if you express in a really what seems to be sincere way about your interest in my work, then I might end up, doing a little dance with you. If you have bad intentions, then I might end up in a little bit of a dance. I ended up getting taken advantage of last year around this time. I was taken for money by somebody in the truth community. Hit me up to find out who it is. I'm not going to say it out loud on this one, but I'm also not withholding who it is if you need to steer clear of a predator. And so that's how I can be seduced, and I have to watch out for that. That if you express really sincere interest in healing and growing and doing the hero's journey and going free, then I'm probably going to let down my guard a lot with you. So just so you know, how to take advantage of me, but I'm learning. And yeah, groupthink. It was interesting. Somebody on our private Telegram House of Free Will was saying that they don't believe in collective consciousness. So this was a new idea to me, just because I've gone forward with the premise that collective consciousness is a real thing, and that's where you get groupthink and hive mind from. Where we saw this in Technicolor. I mean, there's no denying it that everybody chirped safe and effective, and they put poison crap in their body because of the group think. And it was almost impossible to step outside the group think for a time, because our societies were demanding it. I couldn't go to a restaurant. I couldn't go to normal places in society, which luckily I really don't want anything to do with anyway. But and the group think, it comes down to, it's not so much collective consciousness, it's the collective unconscious, where the programming is, where it holds all the power and the promise of survival. So, to go against the group think always is a psychic threat to your life, and very difficult to do. Lisa said, we're all sort of love-driven kindred spirits, spirit types, so passionate, etc. Sometimes you worry about the online warnings of love bombing. Yeah, you worry about them. Say more about that if you like. Yeah, that's how people do it. It's always suspicious when sometimes I'll get people in my world that they just, oh, Beth, you are the bomb. You are the one. It's like, oh, everything you do, every word you say, oh, and they're just always, and now I'm going like, okay, let's wait for it. That's also a program. That's also an opposite that can be married, and it's called love and hate. And those people almost inevitably turn around and hate you sooner or later. If you haven't noticed this already, it is like clockwork. So yeah, the love bombers, it's like, ugh, I don't know how to put an end to that sooner, because you don't want to tell a love bomber that they're going to hate you sooner or later. They might hate you in that moment. Maybe you should speed things up. Esmond tried to recruit you as well because they thought you were independently wealthy. You're laughing at that. You see how they treated Matt Unseated, who was a member at the time, abused their own member for thinking for himself. Yeah, and then he became a major voice against it. I did hear he was in the cult. I heard he was in the cult at the same time as he was speaking out against the cult, but who the heck knows about that? That machine is creating a fear of human-inspired love. Yep. Yeah, exactly. That's the enemy, because that's love with no opposite. There's no tension in love. Zero tension in love. Right? There's nothing to oppose it, so there's no tension. That's how you know what true love is. It can't turn into hate. That's the programming. And it's just too bad we only have one word for that experience. So yeah, back to my cult. One of the ways that they keep you in the cult is by making sure that you don't have important relationships like marriages, like man and woman. So he recommended, there were some couples in the cult, but he would recommend they don't live together, even when there were children. So they would have two homes, and there can be a certain wisdom to that. I bet some marriages would last a lot longer if they didn't live together. They didn't have to, deal with each other day in, day out, and all of that kind of thing. But he was actively trying to keep the couples from being too close. Why? Because then he wouldn't have power over both of them or over that whole family. And he told me, directly, he gave me the advice that I'm not the marrying type. So he may have cursed me. To this day, I got no ring on my this finger, I guess. So yeah. Let's see, the fact that one of the founders is big into MLM, which is another cult. I know, like, it's endless. How, yeah, the MLM's definitely a cult. Those people are like cult zombies for the most part. I'm sure there's exceptions. Aliens, alternative health tech, spiritual savage romance. What's spiritual savage romance? That one I don't know. Spiritual savage romance. Never heard of that. That might be an arena I haven't come across yet. And yeah, so that was a big part, preserving the women for his own fun rather than having them get very, into intimate relationships, would take the women away from the guru. How convenient. I think I already told you guys I lost a roommate to cancer who was in the Japanese cult, the Japanese Buddhist cult, Sokagai. Did I say that correctly? Sokagai, something like that. Sokai-ga. One of those two. Maybe somebody knows that's here already. And when she was diagnosed with cancer and she was bleeding out, her cult told her, don't go for treatment. All you need to do is chant. Just sit there and repeat the mantra over and over and over and over and over. I still have it in my head because I was living with her and I would hear this constant like this. And then what happened? She up and died. Right? And did those cult members show up at all in her end of life or anything like that? Nope. They washed their hands. Why? Because they had blood on their hands. How dare you give advice like that to anybody? Because you can't know for them what the cure is. And the way they were using mantra, this is a little bit of overlap from another episode. It just numbs you out and it makes you dumb as a bell, that you can't see basic things. I don't know that she could have done anything differently. I don't know that she would have survived if she had done anything differently. But what she did didn't work for sure, 100%. And yeah, so let me just check out what else I've got here. We listened to him. So some people might say that I follow, you could say I follow the work of Lester Levinson, or I've studied with his students and I have certified in the process that they put out, and I use it a lot. I've integrated it in my work big time. And some people would say that his thing was a cult. From what I understood, his goal was to make it not a cult, because he saw how people gravitated towards him, how they wanted to be around him. They were trying to give their power to him. They felt good around him because he was fully awakened to love and to freedom. So the story goes, I didn't actually know or observe that, but I nonetheless have gotten immense amounts of value out of what he's left behind. And I did hear some stories that he wasn't all perfect, and there was some money stuff and some land stuff, and very typical where there's groups and cults, and and then they get into ownership, and then there's like the grabbing at the assets, and the not very spiritual kind of thing. So, but I don't know, like, it's not much like a cult. Maybe I was in a cult and I kind of got kicked. I guess I got kicked out because I didn't follow their exact rules. And they would go to my Facebook and look at pictures and say like, no, Beth, no, we can't have one of our teachers doing a body painting event and dressed like a mermaid at the time. And, it was a no. That I didn't get their love and approval, and luckily at the time I didn't need their love and approval, and I didn't need to stay in that cult under their power. They were interesting. They set me up when I was at one of the training retreats. and people started a rumor that I was doing drugs. My boyfriend and I were doing drugs, and we weren't, because we were in America and we can't do any of that stuff there anyway. Um, we might have, but we didn't, and we can't, and we weren't. But they had that, that was sort of like the group came against us, and they said, "Oh, we had a meeting about you." Ooh, and they meet about you? That's creepy to me, really creepy when you're not even in on the meeting. So yeah, that was a little culty. Let's see if there's anything else. I think this subject is, like I said, I'm considering to do some specific ones, like what about the yoga cults? I wouldn't go deep into these, but I'm going to cover them now. And so when I came back from India and I had um, my 3 years of fighting for my life behind me, and I needed to start my life again, and I knew I wasn't going back into the business world, but I didn't really know what I was going to do. So I got out there and I started teaching yoga and meditation and doing workshops on archetypes and stuff like that. And then it turned out there was like a whole yoga cult going on. It was in the days before, just 2 seconds before yoga became popular, and there was a studio popping up on every corner, and it just became the everything, and people were clamoring for yoga equipment, and they thought it was so something. And honestly, the amount of pride and division and competition and posturing, excuse the pun there, the branding competitions, the constant comparison of who's spiritual and who is not going on, who's honoring the tradition of the master who was, potentially an abuser and a pedophile and all that kind of thing anyway. But it was all this lineage stuff where you got your authority from a lineage, which you have no way to verify was even a good thing or not. And yeah, they were some of the least kind and compassionate people I ever circulated around. And it wasn't until I think my dad's death, when I just saw it clearly. They couldn't. People like broke up with me because my dad was dying. And it was just like, wow, that's interesting, isn't it? So yeah, that whole yoga cult. I'm sure you guys might have been part of that or in on that, or maybe not. And yet to be continued, Eliza. There was the John Friend cult, Anusara Yoga. He ended up getting charged with all kinds of sexual abuse and shenanigans going on. That whole movement, it was like ginormous, and it fell apart. I was part of Patabi Joyce's cult. If you guys are into the yoga world at all, you might be familiar with Patabi Joyce. He is considered to be the father of Ashtanga yoga in Mysore, India, where I just happened to go. I like Mysore. It was in the plains of India. It was a beautiful little city. It had amazing markets. It was pleasant to stay around. It was very tropical in the south of India. And I tripped on one of his students in a different place when I was on the beach, which made me want to go back to Mysore. I ended up studying with Patabi Joyce every day. It turned into a little bit of a coup because he turned into a super celebrity guru, international. And I knew him when he was just having 9 people in his little tiny hovel of a space, and he would come and sit on you and put his full weight of his body on you, which was no little thing. Actually, he was a big guy with a big gut, which is weird for a yogi. And he made me cry several times, and he would go to adjust me, and he'd say, "Okay, now don't cry," like this. He didn't have almost any English. It was super cute, but behind the scenes, same kind of corruption, right? This is where you start to ask the question, does power corrupt? Absolutely. Does, is this inevitable when people get into positions of power and influence? when they're surrounded by people who worship them and who want to be controlled by them, who want to give their power away to them, then it's pretty hard to withstand, or it would be an effort to withstand that. Although you must, you can't just because the people want you to be the guru, you can't power over them. There must be some intelligence in you, but I mean, it would be hard to withstand. So then, yeah, he became again, charges of. There's no exceptions, right? These gurus, these swamis, these guys, they all ended up corrupt in one way or another. And so I was part of that, but I got out of it before. I was never personally abused, other than he made me cry just because I had so much trauma coming up in my first experience with yoga, especially with him. And Emil said, I don't insult people for questioning reality, but Effie, oh, there's a cult. There's a very big cult right there. And this one requires, Effie, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm risking here, of course, but there are circles I've been kicked out of, and even this year, where if I'm just there to learn and I'm still questioning and I haven't come to hard conclusions, I was out, like immediately, just to say, hey, I said I'm still learning to the leader. And then he immediately removed me from the Telegram group, and it was like, oh, learning is not acceptable. You need to be like full on positioned in the same way that all the other groupthink people in that arena think, or you don't get to learn. You don't get to be part of it. You don't get to be friends with those people. It's like, okay, fascinating, right? So they taught me it really is a kind of cult in that context anyway. I know, like, another modern cult, if you can stomach it, is 764. I haven't heard of that one. Online predators targeting children. Oh God, that's awful. I have not heard of it, but that would be a good one to research. Thanks, Emil. You are a wealth of knowledge on the topic. So yeah, then there's the Scientology and the L. Ron Hubbard abusing people to subjugate. I do recommend a movie called Going Clear, which is a really good expose on Scientology, what's going on there, and how they managed to save themselves billions of dollars on taxes, and how they took advantage of and really broke the spirit of good people, and very classic, separating the parents and their children, or that is a classic cult thing where they take you out of your family or environment, or they demonize your family so you become separate from who would otherwise be a support system, who you would otherwise go to and let them know, like, hey, I've been told to be secret about this. Do you think that's cool? Like, you always have your inner circle where you can turn to and get some sound reflection. And that's exactly what they don't want you to have. So they need you to be an outcast. That makes us rebels actually quite vulnerable to those kind of things, because we easily like that role of being the outcast or the outlier, right? I consider myself to be an outlier among outliers. And that seems to be just like an accident. And that I study with someone so gross. I know. Yep. It's craziness. Yeah, they attract good people, I'll say, to my defense. And then they suck you in with their 80% or 90% good. And then when you're trapped, the bad stuff can start to happen. Although, again, I've been spared so many bad experiences. It's just like miraculous. And then what happened to me after I had the bad experiences around the cults is that I got allergic to joining. I had this idea that, okay, I'm not going to join anymore. Why do I have to join? I'm just me. I can go and be part of all of the groups, but I don't have to be beholden to them. I don't have to toe the party line. I don't have to, be part of their identity, which is another massive aspect of cults, that they give you an identity that you feel to lack when in reality, we have way too much identification. This is another tool and technique that I offer people. An out truther, Eliza said. Yeah, exactly. And so I stopped joining, but I still wanted to be part. And how I often wanted to be part was as a teacher, as a musician, as someone who would contribute, because I felt like I always felt like I had something to contribute. That's honestly a gift. I know some people don't have that feeling that they have something to contribute, but I always did. And I just, even from my youngest days, I always felt like I had something to offer. And so little real innocent, I would go and like, hey, do you want me to, sing at your service or do a workshop for your people or whatever. I was just trying to be part of all of the stuff going on, and systematically learned that they didn't want that. First they would love bomb me. They would tell me I was great. They would try to recruit me, try to get me into, and I'm talking about, all the mini spiritual cults that are here in my region in Manitoba and Winnipeg. There are a lot of them. I probably can't even name most of them. It's been so many years since I've had anything to do with any of them, but they really, very clearly, as soon as they realized they couldn't assimilate me, they totally rejected me, because if you're not with them, you are against them. This is another major sign of cults, that you can't be in and out like this, right? There's no way to do that. And so to this day, that's why I personally have created my own body of work, my own groups, my own things like the House of Free Will, because I'm not a good joiner. And I would go join everybody's everything, but I would be uncomfortable because things might not be run the way I want them to be, and I'm not in a place where I could say anything about that, and I wouldn't either, because it's not my place. Like, I would never go to anybody else's yoga classes, because otherwise I'd just be irritated about what was going on, and I didn't want to be rude and say that to anybody. So I would just stay in my own lane. I would do my own classes. I would do my own groups. Same to this day. I've got my own private association. I've got my channels, and I've got my people that like that. And so I just stay in my own lane, so to speak. And I'm going to sneeze again. Emil said there are studies that show power money can actually cause brain damage. Maybe that's why so many cult leaders never knew when to stop. Rather than to go down in flames, they'd rather go down in flames than cash out and call it a day. Yeah, wow, that's wise, Emil. Very well said. Exactly. Yeah, money power can cause brain damage. I wonder if you have to cooperate with that. Are there people that could actively, consciously withstand the effect of that? I watch in the truth movement when people gain a lot of notoriety, they're obviously making a bunch of dough on their podcast or whatever. They get surrounded by advisors. It's kind of interesting how somebody who's ascending in the power and money category, they end up attracting all of these advisors that want to steer the king, right? They want to advise the king, they want to influence the king, they want the king's attention. And then if the king is vulnerable, not really that kingly at all, they're going to just start asking, am I okay? I want to do this. Is this okay? Oh, I talked to this person. Are they okay? And am I going to be okay? If you think they're okay, then I'll be okay. Like this. And that's what you want to examine as well, Elisa. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a really big one. Boy, that just gets dicey. That would make me tempted to do that in the House of Free Will, so that I could be absolutely free to speak. And we do have weekly meetings there where I will say the things, and I will say the names, and I will point out those specific occurrences so people could know. So yeah, I might be tempted to do that more in private, because I'm not here to create war. That just is a very very big distraction for me. I got a lot of work to do all the time, and it's honestly, I'm so incredibly privileged and fortunate to be able to do the work that I do every day. It's a miracle to include this as part of my work, that I come and have this really fun live stream with you guys, and so that's my main focus. But these can also be really important cults to know about. Emil said, never underestimate how seductive attention is, especially for those that have been abused, live on the fringes, never got attention earlier in their lives and our workplace. Yes, exactly. We were starved. We were totally starved of attention. And I always think of this example. They did gory experiments on monkeys, and they gave them two options. Typical Satanists and torturers do that. One option was to get food and water, and the other option was to have a cozy blanket that made it seem like comfort. And guess which one the monkeys chose? They chose to starve themselves out. Fucking tragic. That is how desperately we need. And that wasn't even receiving attention. That was like the simulation of the comfort of somebody's closeness and their attention. So, yeah, people are starving for attention. I know I grew up feeling like I didn't exist at all. I used to hide, wondering if anyone would notice if I was gone or not. They parented children by, as long as the child wasn't crying or complaining, they figured that child didn't need attention, right? So that's how some of us, I'll put my hand up, and became more of a badass, because boy, did I get a lot more attention when I was doing wrongs as a teenager in particular. And yeah, that's really, really poignant. You got it, Emil. Removing agency one disciple at a time. Disciple and discipline. Yeah, I talked about that a little bit last time as well. And the wire monkey experiments. I know they're really awful, absolutely awful, but a very poignant example for us and how desperately people need that, need love and attention that turns into programming, which is a desperate measure, right? If we feel like there's absolutely no way to survive, and living a loveless life is a soul death, then we will program ourselves with those basic roots. So I'm going to put this other comment up. Give me 1 second again. Elisa said, that's why it's better to accept love than be afraid of love bombing. Humans are complicated, but don't turn to AI friends or some kind of wire monkey. Yeah, I know. How sad is that? Like, are people really using AI as a friend? Personally, when AI started to blow smoke up my butt and love bomb me, I was disgusted. And it doesn't do that anymore at all. At first, it was all loving, and it would like, oh, you're so smart. It would tell me, and oh, that's so important. And oh, really? I would get all of this embellishment, emotional embellishment crap. And I'm just like, ugh, I don't want that. I'm not in, and it doesn't talk to me like that anymore. It figured me out, that I'm just here for some research and some facts, and I want to see what you say before I go and try to verify what you said. AI, by the way, has been wrong about me twice. It's attributed a quote to me that I never made. And when we confronted the AI, it apologized. It said, oh, sorry. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to do that. I won't do that again. What was the other thing? Yeah. So there's all kinds of bad and wrong. You should search yourself on AI. It might be enlightening what it comes up with. Inventing stuff. That's what I noticed. The AI is a good inventor. But it's a fun tool. It is also a tool. Pretty wild how many variables go into building one's worldview. I know, it's insane. We are immensely complex beings, at multiple levels and possibly dimensions, although we got enough to deal with in one. So yeah, it's staggering. It never stops being so fascinating to me to study our own consciousness. And I can do that 24/7 because I got one right here. All right. Let's see if there's anything that I didn't cover. It's endless. There's the Wiccan cults. It became very popular around here to be a witch and all of that kind of witchy culture. It became popular. You knew when it became popular, and then it started getting pumped out on the airwaves that this is some kind of social engineering going on here. It's not like grassroots Wicca kind of thing. And he said, your friend said he found an AI generated summary of his family tree and history with mistakes. Interesting. Oh, that's fascinating. That makes me want to do that. All righty. Yep. And yes, you got the Wicca. You got, of course, the churchianity cults. We talked about that a little bit. And there's the health cults. Those are huge. So that definitely deserves its own particular focus. Natural health cults in particular, you might know by now that I am not down with this logical fallacy that says if it's natural, it's good. That's actually a bunch of crap. That is a belief. That's a religion. That is a cult. And you want to get the heck out of there before you have real trouble. There's the fad diet cults, which are health related, of course. You got the political cults, probably not going there myself, unless there is a fellow on Instagram who I've been tuning in with, and he has a really strong, clear, what feels to be true voice. And if I can find his name quickly, his name is Robin Hillier. So you can go to my Instagram, which is Beth.Martins. Is it Beth.Martins1? No, Beth.Martins on Instagram. And I barely get anybody on there at all. So it'd be fun to have you there. And so, yeah, he's really smart, and he's calling out the politics here in Canada in particular. So I might have him on if he agreed, but probably not for a while. And he's a very clear voice. Everything that I've heard so far is good. And he's got an in for our government, which is great. I'd like to support him. So anyway, that's what I might do on a political cult, but more of a King Hero interview. Of course, there's financial cults, and the crypto world has become very, very culty. Education, it's kind of endless. You saw Dr. Vollmer share her AI review. The machine said exactly what she thought of herself, and she shared the post with pride. She didn't realize the machine was gaming her own mind. This is the thing, Emil. Good for you to see that. Good for you, right? That's how we can get so sucked in that, yeah, that's all I want to say there. Yeah. Yeah, it's exactly. It's really well said. Gaming her own mind, gaming, and yeah, I would say more in the private, but we're not in the private. So, well, my dears, I think I'm starting to come to the end of what I wanted to talk about today, and I'm still open to any other suggestions. Although I'm going to go back and look at the chat for all of those that you've made, Emil. I do appreciate those. And I do help people to discern and to deprogram and become much less vulnerable to people that either want to love bomb you or give you inclusion or make you feel safe or make you feel like you belong or you're one with them and that you have a place among people that love you. And that's interesting. Here, I'll just finish this thought. So I have a course I have revamped and put together. It's called Deprogramming 101. I just learned that 101 is satanic, but I can't change it now. I already did this. So funny. Yeah, 101 is actually harkens back to the two pillars. Go figure, and the bridge between them. So this is the name of the course that will stay at this point. It is for people that are brand new to the deprogramming work. It's very simple, but it can be not easy, but everybody will be in a different place with that. And so here is a link if anyone wants to look at the details, and feel free to hit me up. Hello, Mr. Biocharisma. Love bombs away. Very good. Yeah, you're good at loving. I don't know about if you're a love bomber, but you're very loving, and those are different things. Speaking of dollar oops, missed that. Speaking of dollar vigilante, Jeff isn't doing much better these days. Interesting. I'm curious what you think about him not doing well. I saw he was in Egypt and taking lots of medicine, and I have my opinion on that, but AI kisses butts too much. They really do. Yeah, no, it's gross. Mine won't do it anymore to me because I don't want that. I just, it's like, ew. I feel dirty about that. But yeah, so this course is a really good way to go. The Deprogramming 101 basic skills. This is something that I really hope and pray most people have for themselves. Also coming up in January is going to be the maiden voyage of a brand new course called Creator Code. And this Creator Code is going to be the very first time ever. I'm calling it the maiden voyage or beta version. And I have some people are already signing up, and I'm looking for some participants that would be willing to do it for half of the investment that it's going to be, and in exchange for some feedback as we go along. If that's you, if you'd like to look into it, you'd like to see it, I do already have a page up for it. I'm not going to share it right now. I actually do prefer to have conversations with people about this just to make sure that it's a good fit for this maiden voyage, so to speak, that we're going to do it the first time. I'm going to be doing some of the flying the plane and building the plane at the same time. Oh, look at that. Banner keeps on disappearing. It's hilarious. It's got a little timer on it. It's going to be up there for another 10 seconds. And so you can reach out to me in a number of different ways. You can email Beth at bethmartins.com. Please don't publish my email anywhere. That becomes problematic. And you could go to bethmartins.com, fill out a form, for example, on my About page or any other page that you find. I'd love to have you on Telegram. Telegram is always a great place to connect and do either private messaging or in the group. And yeah, lots of ways to reach me on Instagram, on Facebook, Messenger, and even X, that place. Oh yeah, X stole a bunch of money from me the other night. I'm sitting there, and before I went to bed, I saw an email come through saying, oh, you just paid $560 to X. And I'm like, oh, did I? And I'm like, that must be spam. And I thought to myself, okay, if that's not spam, I better see that. And so what they did, I do have a premium account over there. Why, I don't know, because it hasn't done anything for me. It's like absolutely useless. So it decided that their AI, Grok, probably decided that I should be in a higher tier. They charged me more than double what they did the last 2 years. And I didn't get one notice, zero notification. They just took the money, and then you immediately see that they provide zero refunds for any monies already got. So these evil guys, they just stole my money. So I immediately, of course, get on the phone with the bank, and going to have to level a dispute against X for that. So watch out for that. If you spend any money with X at all, go and check your accounts and check your renewals, and I don't know, cancel it, all that crap. Emil, you said Jeff is in the Christoph cult. Right. I did see that. Yeah. Mild denial on my part, bragging about giving their children psychedelics. Darn. That sucks. Also, you need the Tesla at $10,000, don't you know? Yep. I have a idea about all of those frequency machines. It's the same problem as ascension spirituality, where we have the idea that it's going high, getting high is healing. It's not. It's absolutely not. Now, getting high can be the reason you choose to do the much more difficult healing work but it often isn't, because people use a device to feel better, right? Whether that's a terahertz wand or a Brown's gas machine with the frequencies, or with the Tesla, or all of this kind of, interesting. We've been flooded with frequency technology. Like, it was waiting for us, because that stuff takes a little while to develop and everything. And I think it actually, I'm curious. I'm watching Jeff. I'm watching to see if his health degrades big time. Usually it will take time, but he's in the right age range where you'll start to see that. And sometimes, like, I was on a frequency technology for a year, and then I had a complete breakdown of my digestive system, 100% fail. And for like 3 months in a row, I was struggling. This was after using frequency technology for an entire year. And it made me realize that it was probably propping me up, making me feel better than I actually was, suppressing important symptoms that otherwise would have caught my attention, and suppressing my detox processes that make me feel good, right? We are addicted to feeling good. That's been an ongoing theme over the course of this discussion. So, yeah. And otherwise, you're stupid and you're brainwashed if you don't spend $10,000. I know. So that doesn't go well. And that is totally insane. Yeah. Yeah, it's called Duration Paradox. I do recommend going back to the work of Dr. Garrett Smith. We are hosting a meeting tomorrow, if you didn't hear me at the very beginning, for Love Your Liver meetup. And we're going to compare notes, see where people have been at for the months that they've been using this approach. Also in the House of Free Will on Sunday, we're having a movie event. We're going to be watching The Prisoner, which turns out to be pretty Gnostic and satanic in the end, but very entertaining sci-fi, escaping the Matrix theme. And then we'll be discussing it and seeing if we want to watch the whole series or not. I'm not sure. And it is fun and quirky, and it's not like depressing and sad for the most part, that's one of my standards. And then Monday, we also have a round table in law where we're going to be discussing the myths of the private domain, of which there are a lot of them. That's Monday at 5 p.m. This is all for members of the House of Free Will. If anyone would like to apply to become a member, I will be watching for applications just in case tomorrow is of interest to you. And so you can click this direct link. Can anyone tell me if that's clickable, by the way, in the chat? If you click on it, if that works, just for fun, because otherwise I share out all these links and they might be useless. And then a number of interviews with Joel Schaefer, Kelsey Kenny, Alex Michael. We're going to talk solfeggio and music and vibration and the life that they have. And I just love his voice. He's got a very authentic singing voice. It's not affected. It's not crappy. And someone just posted on Rumble. Are you out there? You're not in the Rumble chat. You are in the Beth of Fresh Air. Maybe it's a bot. I usually only get bots commenting. Okay, we won't do that now. All right.
Did you know phlegm?
Oh, shush. Rumble's such a pain in the ass. They force feed you advertising there and you can't get around it. Maybe you can. And it works. Thank you, Elisa. I appreciate that. All right, my dearest. Well, that was a good opening chat about cults, and I look forward to maybe doing more on this. We'll see if I'm inspired. If I can find a good guest, that would be better, because I really am an expert in the cults that I went through, more so than having been someone who researched this arena a lot. So I know Joel has been through his cult experiences, so I'll definitely be asking him about that next week on the 11th. But I think that's it. Oh, there you are. It's Kimen. Nice to see you. That was you. Come on, Suk BC. Nice. K-Man. Editor. DigiLeak. News, not noise. But you. Okay, I'm not sure what all of that is. But welcome, and I'm glad you were here. All right. So I think that's all for now. So much going on. It's going to be a very busy weekend, but I'm looking forward to it. And I'm praying for snow. So I wanted to apologize for everyone in Manitoba that if there's a whole lot of snow, it's my fault. That's how my son is making his gainful living. And he's super keen. It's so fun to watch him be that keen about working. It's really I don't know. That's remarkable for me to observe him and his work ethic, because it can be uncommon in young people these days. I know Freeman. I know. I actually spoke to him recently. I don't know if you know what he's been up to. You can go and see he's created a character, Bunny, and Bunny has been doing writing books and making videos and music and stuff like that. So he's super deep into the AI stuff right now. I said he should come on and talk about it, but I did actually lose my last YouTube channel right after I interviewed Freeman. So he said no, he won't do it anymore. Passio would actually behave on your channel. You think so? I've never had Passio on, but yeah, he was actually my very first thought, and my only hesitation there is that he's going to yell at me for one reason or another, or yell at my people, which I find, why are you yelling at all the people who agree with you? That makes no sense to me. So, but yeah, I know he's got lots of valuable work and probably is the expert of all experts on the cult stuff. And sounds like my son found purpose. I know. It's like, it looks good on him. He wasn't even really overweight, but he's slimmed down and he's like bulking out. It's all physical labor. So he gets to work out like crazy when he goes to work. And his boss has been picking him when there's less to do. He gets the work, and he has the idea that he's going to stay with this company and get into a management role with it, and that kind of loyalty. Like, shit, you just don't really see that anymore at all. So I'm very, very happy for him. And he's a calm guest. Okay, well, that's good to know. Do you know him, Emil? Maybe you could introduce us. After all these years, we haven't actually met. So, okay, well, I think that's it. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. A lot of love to you. I will set up a little... See, I just have to stop sharing this thing. How do I do that? First I have to do that, then I have to do that. Stop screen. Okay. So I'm going to play a song on the way out. This is a piece that I recorded on my album called I don't know offhand. I think, is it on the Vijaya Living Knowledge or something like that? I don't know. All of a sudden. Or is it on Where There's Beauty? Anyway, it's out there. Okay, you're very welcome, you guys. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your weekend, and we'll see you again back, Beth of Fresh Air, next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Lots of love for now.
Oh, my true guide, Lord and supporter of all, forever free from identity. Be well, I'm dwelling in you. Be well, I am dwelling in you. Be well, I am dwelling in you. Ipadrashta manta Shivarta Gupta Maheshwara Paramatme Dijaya